to some other person, maybe brilliant people around. But when we're looking at politics, when we say Godfatherism, it means a lot. Some people view it as that man with the return of democracy in 1999, that man that has influence, very influential, be it physical, materials, and other things he has, and his word stays. And some people see that kind of person as someone that might not be one of those that in the formative stage of democracy or the struggle, but is one that are taking advantage, maybe beneficiary after the rule, the military long-term rule. And some people see those people as, hey, this man has influence, he has money, he can move things, and they call them their godfather. And especially those that are looking for position in the society. Their houses, the godfathers, where the reside becomes some sort of mecca to a lot of people, contractors, politicians, upcoming politicians, people that needed help, and the rest. So today we're going to look at that negative influence of Godfatherism in Nigeria. So we're looking at loads of things, how it affects our politics. We're going to look at how it affects the society and the rest. The phone lines will be open for you to call and make your contributions. We will go on this break, and when we come back, we take the papers and we're going to look at the headlines alone this morning. Let's go on a break. We'll be right back.
SuperDawn, your daily live current affairs program where topical issues that border on politics, economy, sport, and sizzling national issues are analyzed, now holds every Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Superscreen Television. Let your voice be heard. Join us.
Welcome back. It's a newspaper review segment this morning, and we want to start with the Daily Trust. And it says here, NPDP members may quit APC in June 23rd. Wow, I don't want to say that date is special to me. I don't know why I don't want to quit that date, but it's in the papers. We also have the FEC holds valedictory session for Fayemi. In the papers this morning, presidency, no comment on National Assembly threat. We have here FRS ranks in 300 billion as deadline ends June 14. Still finally in the papers this morning in the Daily Trust, we have Buhari declares June 12 as Democracy Day. Well, this came shocking to loads of people after how many years? And he has declared June 12th as Democracy Day. Moving away from Daily Trust, we get the News Telegraph this morning. And it says, yes, kudos knocks for Buhari. And the writer says, as federal government declares June 12th Democracy Day. And we have some of the headlines here. The writer, says, late MK Abiola bags highest honor, the GCRF. We have federal government honors Kinjibe Gani Fayemi with GCON. And here says a guy, Adebajo, Barala Musa, Afenifere Hills president. We have here Junad. It's mere politics. And the PDP has this to say. PDP to Buhari, you are not sincere. Well, we don't know about that, but that's it in the papers this morning. Saraki has case to answer over bank robbery. Police. And the writer says invitation to Senate President stands. No deadline for appearance. I thought they said he should write But right now, I don't know, the stories is getting twisted. Away from the New Telegraph, we have the Vanguard this morning. Federal government immortalizes Abiola, June 12, now Democracy Day. And the writer says Abiola gets postmortem GCFR, Kinjibe Gani gets GCON. And you need to get hold of the Vanguard this morning. NAS, Benue, Ekiti, Taraba tackles defense minister. And here says senators, reps charge minister to withdraw statement. Affected states angry, vows not to repeal laws. Jubrin faces fresh probe for alleged misinterpretation of NAS deliberations. And here says, of a bank robbery, police denies withdrawing invitation to Saraki. I said it, okay. And we have this one, attack in Goma. And logo says, 15 mourners, NECO exams candidates killed by headsman. I don't know why these guys are still killing. I don't know why. It's disheartening, it's barbaric, it's wicked, it's uncalled for. Yeah, we finally move away from the Vanguard and we take the Punch newspaper. And this says, Buhari declares June 12 Democracy Day. And the writer, again, the same thing all over in the papers, gives MK Abiola GCFR, Gani Fayemi Kinjibe GCON. And from PDP, actions marks of desperation. Afenifere hails decision. Also in the Punch this morning, National Assembly, Ekiti, Benue, Taraba, Lamblas Defense Minister. And the writer says, call for suspension of anti-open grazing law. We have here resident stone power firm officials to death in Ogun. Federal government states earned 30 billion from the VAT in 11 months. Tunde Fowler. Finally, not finally, I think we have some of the headlines. Of our robberies, we haven't withdrawn invitation to Saraki, say police. Court convicts First Bank chairman and MD of contempt. President taking Niger Deltans patient for granted. Clark. Well, this is all we can take for this segment of the newspaper review this morning, the headlines, and we'll go on this break. When we come back, we want to look at Godfatherism in Nigerian politics, really, because if you look at the word Godfatherism, it's the literal meaning. You know, some call them master, I said earlier, and some call them all sorts, Baba Niye, Baba Kekere, and all of those thoughts. But we want to look at how it affects our politics, the democracy, especially in this Fourth Republic. We'll go on this break, and when we come back, we will continue with our guests in the studios. Please stay with us, and remember, you have to subscribe to our channel. Just subscribe and also make your calls.
Ginger is a very popular spice that is used widely in cooking and can be processed in a variety of ways. It has quite a unique flavor and is an ingredient used in many savory foods. It also has long been used as a remedy for various ailments, whether alone or in conjunction with other herbs and spices. And researchers continue to show just how effective it can really be. Ginger has several benefits as it contains a compound known as 6-gingerol The compound is so far shown that it might be able to slow or even stop cancer cell growth in prostate, pancreatic, and ovarian cancer. If abnormal or damaged cells are able to start growing out of control, then a cancer may occur. An early test indicates that ginger could hold the key to the treatment. The good news for nausea sufferers is that ginger has been shown to be quite effective at relieving the symptoms. Nausea can be very unpleasant symptoms and can have a variety of causes. Ginger has long been used by sailors as a remedy for seasickness and can also help patients recover through nausea symptoms after surgical operations. Many people have difficulty controlling their blood sugar level. If there's too much sugar in the blood, very serious complications can occur. Studies have shown that consuming just 2 grams of ginger powder every day can reduce blood sugar levels by 12%. It can also make improvements of around 10% in the long term. It also has a positive effect on oxidized lipoprotein, which can have a significant effect on heart diseases. Menstruation can be quite an unpleasant experience for many women, with some suffering painful cramps and headaches every cycle. Pain during menstruation is known as dysmenorrhea and is a very common problem. Studies have shown that just a single gram of ginger a day can be enough to reduce both the duration of pain and their intensity. Every day we use our joints, and this results in wear and tear. Over time, this can result in a condition known as osteoarthritis, which is a fairly common ailment amongst older people. It can be very painful and can lead people to be unable to use their joints effectively. Studies have shown, though, that symptoms from osteoarthritis can be reduced with the help from ginger. Infections can really be quite unpleasant, and they can also be very easy to pick up. Though there are treatments available, it would clearly be not to get an infection, but ginger could help. Ginger contains a substance known as gingerol, and studies have shown it to be very effective in combating infections such as bacterial infections, viral infections, and some fungal infections. Stomach ulcers are painful lesions that are found on the stomach's internal lining. They are caused by a lack of protective mucus that protects the stomach's internal lining, allowing the lining to be harmed by stomach's digestive enzymes. Stomach ulcers are less likely to occur among people that consume ginger powder. One study shows that ginger can be effective at helping to prevent aspirin-induced stomach ulcers, in particular by blocking the activity of the enzymes responsible. One of the main causes of indigestion is a delayed emptying of the stomach, while an inability to digest as effectively as usual is also a common cause. Tests have shown, however, that ginger is able to speed up the emptying of food from stomach, which helps to prevent indigestion. Heart disease and high cholesterol levels are very closely linked. High cholesterol levels can lead to the buildup of cholesterol in the arteries, potentially blocking them. This can be and often is fatal. The cholesterol that is responsible for heart disease is known as LDL. A study was undertaken on people with a high level of cholesterol, which showed that in 45 days, 3 grams of ginger powder a day caused a considerable reduction in the cholesterol levels. Another study in rats shows that ginger was able to reduce cholesterol levels as effectively as atorvastatin, which is a drug used for this purpose. Oxidation causes stress in the body and helps to cause it to age over time. All parts of the body are affected, including the brain, and this leads to complications in later life. Ginger has antioxidant properties that helps to protect the brain from oxidative stress, helping to prevent complications such as Alzheimer's and dementia.
Welcome back, where we're looking at the impact of Godfatherism in Nigerian politics. This morning, when you say Godfatherism and its impact, it's a contentious issues that we are facing, and sometimes you get to hear that the godfather and the godson they are disagreeing, and you get to hear where the godson says enough is enough. You cannot control me. I'm now in position. Let me be. Well, today we have some guests in the studios that would be talking about these issues this morning. We have a legal practitioner. We have Adeyemi Birunke. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. It's good to be
We also have Ahanacho Alioze, is a legal practitioner. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning, ladies.
Now we're talking about Godfatherism. Let me start with Adeyemi. Let me start with you. When we say Godfatherism, what do you think about it?
Oh, well, Godfatherism is exactly what the name implies. It means that there's somebody that has put himself in a position of authority over that other person that is supposed to look up to the person. Now, as it's commonly said in law, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you naturally find individuals in power that want to perpetuate themselves. So it naturally leads to this concept of Godfatherism.
Okay, I'm going to ask Barrister Alioze this question. I'm looking at the effect of this word, Godfatherism, especially looking at the political setting in Nigeria. What's your take when you say Godfatherism in politics?
As far as I'm concerned, Godfatherism in politics is the bane of Nigerian politics. I would not say it is singularly responsible. I would rather say it is majorly responsible for some of the wrinkles and imperfections that we find in the system.
Okay. So looking at Godfatherism in politics, the effect, the impact in Nigerian politics, what will you make of it with what is happening right now in Nigeria?
Well, to a large extent, I think it's clear for all to see that the impacts of Godfatherism has always been negative. From time immemorial, and even from the obvious days of Pa Adedibu, when he was in charge of Oyo State, you know. So it's the same. We've suffered the impacts over time, and really, I don't think there's any benefit to Godfatherism. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost a unique opportunity to change that with the recent Not Too Young to Run
Bill.
Act, yes, that was recently signed. Because it pulled out the independent candidacy. We could have broken the Godfatherism concept in politics to some extent.
Okay, do you agree with him?
Not necessarily. I think that for the purpose of this discourse and our examination of the Nigerian political landscape, the idea or the notion of Godfatherism for us has always been that there's somebody who sits somewhere who directs the affairs and who insists that things should be done in a particular type of way. And when those things are not done the way he wants it, he spoils the system. But if we will be honest, we look at history, we'll find out that in politics, there has always been a godfather at some point. There's always somebody at the top who necessarily is in control of what happens. Who is in control of what happens? Who dictates what really goes on? You know? And to that extent, I can say.
Okay, well, when you are saying who dictates, I have to take it from there and come back to you. Some people have said that this happened because of the resources these people are having. And people look up to them for positions. People look up to them for them to help them get to where they want to get to. Even it's not even always in politics as well. You also have it in contracts. You have it in government establishment where you want to become the SA to one governor. You have to have someone in the party and the rest. But coming back to you, you're explaining what that means.
Yes. You know, what I was trying to say is that because of the way the system and the political amendment is structured, there's always somebody who is first.
For instance, let's say prior to independence, at that time we found out that people like Pa Anthony and Ahoro, people like the late Tafawa Balewa, at that time when the independence struggle was going on, they were in their 20s, they were young men, but they were in the forefront of this struggle. And the result was that by being in the forefront, they were the immediate direct beneficiaries of the political power, so to speak. The result now being that when they got there, of course, they now want to like maybe wield some form of influence. And the next thing, because of our own cultural background, you find out that everybody flocks to them, goes to them for advice. And in fact, before you know what you're saying, we now have building blocks of with them at the top and so many others who are following their guideline. And that is how it has been since then.
But when will you allow, when will we going to allow it to continue when they were not even part of the struggle? The formative stage, they were not there, they were not seen. Where people are struggling to make sure that democracy stands, these people were not there. So why will we allow them? Why should we allow them?
No, that's my point. We should not allow it to continue. Yes, it's true, and it's right to an extent that Godfatherism is not local to Nigeria. You always have people like that. Because, like I said, you have individuals, it's human nature to want to perpetuate yourself in power. But it's wrong. Now, he has made a good point. Back in the days, how old was Gowon? How old was Murtala Mohammed? How old were these guys when they were in the helms of power? And then I think to a large extent, our generation has been shortchanged because we grew up hearing the mantra, you are leaders of tomorrow. Tomorrow being X. And we're waiting for years for this gentleman to tell us when is the tomorrow. Until recently, with the not too young and the new revolution nowadays, when we have decided that the tomorrow has come. It's today. So we should not allow Godfatherism to continue because it's not in our interest.
When we go back to what happened in Nigeria, we're looking at the former Governor Chimaruke with the Senator Jim Wombodo. There were issues there.
Yes.
If you go back in your state, Chief Lamidi Adedibu,
yeah.
You had issues there with them. Chris Ngige, remember with Chief Umba?
Yeah.
Ifeanyi Umba,
yes.
In Anambra State, they had issues there. And it all boils down to this Godfatherism issues. Even at this present stage we are right now, we have some people, political people that, you know, without them you cannot be in position. I'm just looking at this Godfatherism. Where is it going to lead us to?
Well,
where is it leading us to?
Well, ordinarily, with the examples you have given and the issues that has been raised, it will look like we are not making any progress.
Should we accommodate it?
Well, to answer that question for me, I would say that we are not accommodating it. It's just that the process, our own process of establishing that these things are being pushed out is rather slow. I will give you an example. In a state like Rivers State, for instance, going by the definitions and the explanations that we have given, you find out that the problem in that state for years has been this issue of Godfatherism. Some people, because they have been in position of power, they now want to dictate, they now want to tell everybody which direction to go. They forget that there is a constitutionally guaranteed right of every person to choose where he will go personally and willingly. The result is that you have clashes, you have problems. Sometimes it goes the way of one, another time it goes the way of another. And you find these skirmishes scattered all over the landscape. Now, why I say that for us, the results are coming out rather slowly is because, fine, it is not a fight between two equal partners. Now, and it is the fellow who has more desire that will come out on top. Now, why I'm saying this is that we are not going to fold our arms and relax and say because there is Godfatherism, we close our eyes to it. The young men, the young women, people like me, people like us, all over the country have to get up and take their chances when they have it. Because it is when they take their chances, that's when they can come out to say we stood against Godfatherism and it worked. The whole idea of this Godfatherism thing, it's a psychological, it's something, it's more psychological than even physical. Why should I have to go to a certain place to go and pay homage just for me to be able to get certain things in life? Why do I have to be at a certain place at a certain time before I can get a certain something? It is the way we have been wired to think. And until we start saying, no, I don't have to go here, I will go out and I will do what I need to do to get what I want.
Then how do you get a position?
Yes. See, a very good example of what I'm trying to say is what happened in the US. The immediate past president of the US, Barack Obama. Nobody gave him any chance. But what did he do? Even before he won the nomination of the Democratic Party to become the first black American nominee for the president, he had volunteers all over the nation who were talking to people. That was the first time there was going to be massive mobilization of people. But the problem we have here is that in the face of poverty, in the face of unemployment, in the face of infrastructural deficiencies, you find out that the Godfatherism thing will be very ingrained, because it is only people who have been able to feed that can sit down and begin to ask themselves, why should I even follow you? Are you the one feeding me?
So where do we start from? If we, because he said something key here, he said we are wired to think that way. So where do we start from so we begin to think differently?
Yes, we need to rewire our thinking. Like I said, he's right, because our minds have been worked on over the years, over decades. Because if someone tells you you are a leader of tomorrow, it means that it's the person that will tell you when you are ripe for leadership. So it takes every young person to determine and decide consciously that no, leadership is today. Think back to who the leaders were that have now refused to relinquish power. And then say, no, it's our turn to rule. It's our turn to lead, because we have ideas. Now, if we look at the system in the US compared to Nigeria, yes, it's true. There are distractions in Nigeria that makes it difficult for people to say, oh, okay, I'm loyal to a party. Even our so-called political office holders cross carpet all the time, because they don't look at interests, what serves my purpose. But when we decide to back a particular candidate, because for the right reasons, only for the right reasons, this person has something to offer, then we'll start making progress as a nation. Okay,
I'm going to take you back again, because looking at politics in Nigeria, and some people have said that, yes, I have what it takes to rule, but I don't have the weight, and it still comes back to the financial muscles. I don't have that weight, the money to penetrate. Must politics be about money? Because that's what we're still saying.
Technically, it shouldn't be. But in reality, politics is money. I will explain. Years back when we were in the university, we came up with a proposal for mass mobilization, myself and some group of students of like mind. But we needed funds. And at that time, there was only one place to go, because we were still under the Abacha regime. So one of us who had some sort of connections went to the governor of the state that time. I don't want to mention the state. And they were able to sell the idea. To cut the long story short, as soon as the governor got the vision, of course, they pumped in money into that enterprise. And the rest is history. In fact, that particular enterprise is the origin of all the man marches you have heard about in Nigeria, starting from the one of Year and all of that. Now, of course, those young men who were in that clique, who thought up those ideas, they now saw that this is also a way of making money. Now, if you go to mobilize a hungry man, you want him to come out, to come and sit down and stay at a certain place and do certain things. The first thing he will tell you is, I've not eaten. So what do? You give him something, go and eat. We'll provide transport for you. That's what will make him come out. Now, that is where the money comes in. It is in the logistics of it, the arrangements and the organizations. Somebody has to foot the bill. And naturally, when you have somebody who is footing the bill, he ordinarily becomes the leader, whether it is by default or by accident.
But we've seen those days where people like Awolowo and Nnamdi Azikiwe, they foot bills and they don't have this test, this hunger to grab everything to themselves. Have we not seen it in this country happen?
Well, I agree with you to the extent that, yes, the examples you have mentioned. But there are people who will also disagree with you that these names you have mentioned are exactly the reason why we are where we are. Because for the fact that they have access to resources that other people do not have. I do recall that at the time when Zeke was alive, Zeke's law word was practically law in this country. If Zeke told you, go to so-so place and tell them you are from Zeke, it's almost guaranteed that you will get what you want.
Was it not because of the struggle?
Well,
was that not because of that?
Agreed. The struggle was what led to all of that. But you cannot divorce yourself, or you cannot divorce from the idea that the result of that struggle is what we are talking about. Now, because at that time, he provided the leadership required, what happened? If you are able to lead me in a struggle, naturally, if I have personal problems, I will come to the leader. And if that leader is able to show me succor, what will happen? Automatically, I will not find myself going against him. And that is how the structures are built.
Do you agree with him?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay, give us a reason.
Now, here's my thinking. You made reference to our law. These were men that, and I'm happy that you also referred to the movement in the school. They had an idea, they had a vision, but they sold it in quotes, maybe to some, if you could say, the highest bidder. But the converse could be the case. People would follow a leader that they trust. People will follow a leader that they have some faith in. People will go with someone that says, oh, okay, we want to, this person has something to offer in the long term, because I think it's wrong for us to judge Nigerians based on the short term. Fine. It's been easy because of poverty for a lot of people to sell their birthright for that one plate of porridge. I'm hungry right now, meet my needs, and I'll give you everything you want. But I think if Nigerians should have a clear picture, okay, for instance, Mr. President's recent awards.
Yesterday.
On Chief MKO Abiola. Nigerians followed MKO Abiola because in the minds of Nigerians at the time, he had something to offer. He wasn't paying everybody. He didn't go out to mobilize and say, okay, let me give you that meal to come out and vote. People went with him. And the same thing happened with Barack Obama in the US. People had faith in him. They said this person could deliver, and they went full backing with him. So, yes, the money is still the issue, because oftentimes we'll find that a lot of people are just that, settle my problem now. I need that 5,000 and I'm good. But I feel if Nigerians have a leader that they can depend on, that they can rely on to champion a cause, Nigerians will follow.
Okay, the lines, excuse me please, the lines are open right now. You can call and maybe part of this program, call us and let's hear from you what you think. But looking at this Godfatherism issue, some people have said that the Godfathers are helpful to them. The Godfathers have positioned them into where they never thought they would be in life. But some other persons have said that these are just exploitation from people, where you sit down and tell me I'm going to put you in a particular position, and what you give me at the end of the day is 10% whatsoever, whatever that comes to you. Some people see it as exploitation, while some other people are also seeing it as it's an opportunity, necessary. You need to help me. But what role has Godfatherism really played in shaping our democracy?
If you ask me, I will think that if you remove Godfatherism the way we have been describing it here, we probably will not have any democracy. You see, I say this because I do recall at some point in time in this country, let's say about that 99, the majority of the crop of people who became political leaders at that time were just opportune to be there. the real intelligentsia, some of the people who had put the intellect and the wherewithal, who could understand how this politics thing worked, kept away from the system because they were afraid that this thing was not going to work. And the result was that you saw some of the touts, you saw some of the strong arm men. They now found an opportunity to get in. And of course, when they get in, what will they do? They will institutionalize their own style. And that's what happened. Now, why would we have a system or a situation where people, bright, young, educated people will shy away from taking political office? Why would we have that system? It is because we have, some would say, and I would say, that it boils down to the value system that has been ingrained in us. That's why I said earlier that it's about the way we are wired. You see, when we see, I'll give us another example. 3 or 4 young men went to school together. One drops out and goes into strong arm. And tomorrow he has fleets of cars, he's receiving national honors. The ones that remained in school and got first class, all they get is maybe 50,000 naira here and there on employment that will not even take them to the end of the month and all of that. And you begin to ask yourself, what is the motivation for the man who became a first class graduate to remain and maintain that standard? The motivation will be lost, because when he sees this fellow who he considers as a dropout doing fairly well in life, the pressure is on him. And it's not every person who has the moral backbone to remain firm in the face of such adversity. In fact, I do not know of any person who will maintain that firm moral stand for like 20, 30 years at a stretch. At some point in time, it will give. And that is the problem. That is why the society is the way it is. Because when you find yourself struggling and you're not seeing the reward, at some point in time, you just give up and say, oh, let them just do what they like. You're not interested. And with that apathy, it will give room for what is going on. Those ones who are in charge and in control will now be in a better position to say, no, you are the one we want to go for social posts. You are the one we want to do so and so.
Are you saying that there are no young people that thinks they can take position?
That is not what I am saying. Okay. What I am saying is that there are young people in this country who are doing what they can to turn things around. No gainsaying about that. But when you look at the numbers, for every one such young person who is doing what he can, whether it's in business, whether it's in politics, whether it's in the professions, you have 45 to 50 others who are ready to follow the instruction of somebody.
Maybe it's because of money, because if you look at what is happening right now, to get a presidential form that you want to be a president is 10 million naira. How many people, young people, working, can afford this? Let
me just respond to that one quickly. As far as I am concerned, it's not even the cost of the nomination forms. Because if you are a young man and people see you that you can do this thing, people can put together the resources to buy that form, whatever it costs.
Who are the people?
Who
are these people?
Believers in your cause, your friends.
They have enough.
Yes, why not?
You see, I agree with him to an extent. Because, like I said, the truth is, nowadays, social media has a good side, which I think a lot of Nigerians are not even exploiting. You know, we go on social media and then we tweet all these funny things. Oh, I'm taking picture. I mean, you know, that's what we use social media for. But social media is also an incredible source of crowdfunding. If Nigerians find a visionary leader that they can go with, and the person says, this is what I'm offering Nigeria. And the key thing is the person is able to convince Nigerians, because I think that's where we have serious problem as a nation. We've lost that trust in ourselves. We see everybody as an opportunist. And that's why godfathers are exploiting the system. Because for a young person, even if I were interested to vie for an office, I might be able to get the money from outside of a godfather. But I still need the consent and the backing of that strong person to say, okay, I'm going to mobilize for you, and then you go, your 10 million is not going to waste. So that's where our problem is. And if I may now tie it back, it shows that over the years, we've not had good leaders in Nigeria. Because I think the hallmark of leadership is someone that can reproduce himself. If I'm a good leader, if I had good ideas and a good vision for the country, it behoves on me to reproduce myself in someone that is coming after me, not impose or pick that person, which is what Jesus Christ did. Jesus Christ was on earth, he reproduced himself in 11 and sent them forth, and we are still following Jesus till today. We've not had that in Nigeria. That is why Godfatherism is still the big thing, because these guys want to keep power for themselves and make every other person depend on them.
So how do we begin to, because I've asked this in the beginning of this question, where or how can we at least reduce this power of these godfathers? Because we're looking at what is happening in Nigeria. Election is around the corner. We see that a governor will finish this tenure, maybe 8 years, and is moving to the Senate as though there are no people there that can be there. And you still see the same people, we're recycling ourselves instead of getting fresh breed, fresh brains, fresh people in different positions. So how do we really make the godfather, even though some people say godfather has put me there, how do you make him handicapped? Very important.
Well, in my view, I think that to do that, first of all, we have to start with some very serious rewiring in the head. And then that will now translate to some reorganization, even in the party systems. The selection processes by which party executives, people who hold all forms of responsibility, if there is a, will I call it a reward system that rewards you for doing well. Maybe if you're able to, let's say for instance now, 2019 is around the corner, and we come out and we say, okay, the parameter for re-electing anybody back into office is that he must have done so and so and so and so and so thing, and it becomes, and we adopt it and say, this is what we will use to judge. If we have that, the matter will narrow down a bit. It will not become easy to say, you were supposed to do this chair, you didn't do this chair, so you will not go back. We'll bring somebody who will try to do this chair, we use it as a basis. Right now in Nigeria, there is no basis. There is nothing like a benchmark that you can say, this is what we are going to use to judge anybody. Let me give you another example. Most Nigerians believe that the current administration has not done so much. If you go out in the streets, if you ask people, they tell you, they attribute all kinds of things to what is going on. But the question is, where do we get to the point where all of us can come out and say, this government, it doesn't matter, you have failed us, we are putting you out? We will never get to that level, for the simple reason that you will find that there are people who maybe because they are benefiting things from this government, who will come out and amplify those things they are doing, and then they will use it as their own basis to say, okay, we are in support of this government and we want this government to continue. At the end of the day, when you check, you find out that their reasons for support are not altruistic in nature. It's not because the life of the average Nigerian is being improved, but because of what they and their lines of patrimony are benefiting from the system. Now, if we can, as a nation, as a country, have a benchmark by which we judge the executive, by which we judge the legislature, I am thinking that that would be a very firm foundation. For instance, what is the use of having a senator in the Senate who has spent 16 years, not one bill to his name? What is the use of having a minister in a ministry? In 4 years he has been a minister in a ministry, he has not been able to achieve anything remarkable. Those are the points I'm making. And that is where even the media, everybody ought to be involved. We need to have this national, state, local government benchmark. When we have those benchmarks, the result is going to be that it will be difficult for the godfather to come out and present certain type of candidate, because he knows if you bring this fellow, everybody knows what this fellow can do. They will not vote him.
Okay, but looking at our politics here and where we are right now, we want to look at, some people have said some godfathers had favored some states this Godfatherism is favoring some state. Can Godfather or Godfatherism favor any state or favor anybody anyway?
I don't think so. But before I answer that question in detail, I'll just go back to the previous question on how to make progress, how to change where we are. Like I said, we lost an incredible opportunity recently with the Not Too Young to Run
law.
Yes,
yeah.
the act now.
The act, yes.
You know, assuming they had passed it with the independent candidacy, it means that someone that has built credibility for himself can run outside of a party system that is governed or administered by a godfather. But what obtains today, even if the electorate says, oh, okay, you've been in Senate or you've been in government for 16 years, we don't want you. Is it going to go through the party organized system of selection to pick a candidate and say, okay, this is the candidate you are still. So the electorate, we don't have much say over that process. So that process is still exclusively the right of the godfathers. So we have to go back to that drawing board and get it right from the beginning. Let people, put that reward, attach a reward to excellence and say, okay, if you do well, you have the right reputation, you have built the right credibility, people trust you, then they'll come to you and ask you to lead. Because that is the best way of leadership. It's not something that someone that is sponsored by a godfather. That is where we need to go. Now, with regards to the question of whether godfathers have favored any states, I would still say no, because there's a personal interest. Once a godfather or anybody in power wants to perpetuate himself, it draws from personal interest. Now, for instance, the local government and LCDA elections in Lagos State, I think it was late last year or
last year.
And I asked someone, I said, okay, do you realize that I didn't even meet any councillor or candidate for the LCDA of my area to walk in and say, I'm vying for this post.
So you can ask questions.
So what are you offering us? What's our benefit? Who do we, from any of the parties? None came. And the person said, once you get the right thumbs up, endorsement, you are good to go. So they don't really need you. So that is part of the problem. So even where it seems like things are working, for the people, for the nation, in the overall interest, it's not
for the health of the people.
Yes, it's not positive.
Yes.
To add to what he has said, I keep insisting that we are wired this way.
Yeah.
I will give you an example. Whether it's in the east, whether it's in the west, whether it's in the north. When the old men gather and they say, this is a promising young man in this community, let us give him this. That is an act of godfatherism. There is hardly any community where you go to in Nigeria of today that you don't have such gathering of old men or older people who are more or less like the dictators of the trends, whether it's political, whether it's economic.
I'll come back to you. I'm enjoying that. I want to know, because he said something very striking, even the act already of saying this is the person is promising is already act of godfatherism. Yes. We'll come back to you, but let's go on this break. We'll be right back.
Yes. See, something happened. There's a matter I did back home in River State. The elders of the community came and told me that
Welcome back. We're still looking at Godfatherism, and I have our guest still in the studios, looking at what is happening in Nigeria. If I take you, although we're doing that tomorrow, but I'll take you down there, where the Offa robbery gang was arrested, and they mentioned some names. That's not part of. Is that not part of Godfatherism? Someone is saying, I'm a thug, and that's my leader. Is it not part of it?
Well, it is. And
that's if it's real. That is if it's genuine.
Yes.
That is if, I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Now, here's my thinking. And I think part of our problem as Nigerians is we are easily sentimental. We easily get drawn off the facts into the realm of emotions, and then we model everything up there. You are right. If it's true.
If it's true.
If it's true that there is a relationship between these suspects and the Senate President. It's not enough, because people have now gone from the point of view of, oh, they are trying to implicate the Senate President in the armed robbery. But
is it not possible?
No.
Okay.
That's not even the point. These guys didn't say anything like that. Their thing was, oh, he armed us at some point. In criminal law, that's an accessory. So you cannot give a gun to somebody and say, okay, use it for this purpose only. No, the person can finish the purpose and use it for another purpose, but the person got arms, or there's a relationship, illegal relationship, tying the both of them together. So that is still an issue of law. But people have just gone into the narrow aspect of saying, oh, okay, it's the armed robbery, but that is not the main thing. But it just reflects how deep into our fabric as a nation that Godfatherism has gone, where you have people in power, people of wealth, exploiting the desperate Nigerians because of that poverty.
Okay, what is your take to it? You heard what he has said.
Yes, I like what he has said, but I have a slightly different, if not radically different, perspective. You see, if you take the whole picture of recent events between the executive and the legislature on one hand, between individuals in the legislature and certain institutions and individuals representing those institutions in the executive, if you put all of this together on a table and look at it, you will come out with the unmistakable perception that this is the voice of Esau and the hand of Jacob. Or is it the hand of Esau and the voice of Jacob? Now, and that perception is a very difficult perception to remove, given the actions, inactions, counteractions of the parties involved. Ordinarily, the fact that somebody like the Senate President's name is dropped in this type of investigation should evoke the highest levels of opprobrium and condemnation ordinarily. But would you be fair to yourself if you follow the history and the antecedents of this Senate President and what he has been going through in the hands of this government? What about the history of the police? Let me use this opportunity to tell Nigerians, I was in the court at Ebutemeta, and somebody was charged to court. The man had been detained for 9 months just because he was in a place where the police came to raid. He couldn't speak English. They took him along with the people they came to raid, gave him a gun and snapped him and charged him to court. When the magistrate mentioned it, all of us in court, we were shocked. I started thinking of how am I going to help this fellow as a person. This is the type of police that we have. I had a personal experience where an operative of SAS shot at my leg in the police station, knowing that I am a lawyer and that I am there to represent somebody unconnected with their matter. He still shot at me. That is the type of police we have. What confidence will I have to believe what the police is telling me, even when it is obvious? That is not to say that I am giving the Senate President or any other political person a blank check to go ahead and organize, that is my own word now, the political terrain. That is not it. But like somebody will say, can two wrongs make a right? Two wrongs do not make a right.
Okay, but looking at what we're discussing today,
Yes.
removing the police, it could be anybody, it could be any institution.
Yes.
But removing the police, don't you see this connect with Godfatherism, with someone having the confidence
Definitely.
to destroy
Let me put it
persons,
this way. Let me put it this way, man.
knowing that he has someone to back him up?
I read in the newspapers, if I have the time, I can get the specific source, that the IG of police went to get go-ahead from the president to prosecute, to go after the Senate president. It was in the papers, it was carried. While some newspapers did not use such such words, but the implications were there. And you will find out that the U-turn by the police, some of the things that are, the way it is structured, you get the impression that it is after they have gone somewhere and they have been told to go ahead, they now come out and make some of these media pronouncements.
Are you saying this because they first said that he should come, later they said it should be handwritten, and now yesterday the PRO of police is saying he must come again? Is that why you're giving all of these explanations?
What other explanation could there be? There's no other explanation. Okay, let us even go a step further. Look at what has happened between the police and Dino Melaye. I agree, Dino Melaye might have nuisance value. It's certainly not everything that he stands for that I agree with. But the fact still remains that the man is a member of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The fact still remains that he has alleged that he does not have any confidence in these police that are investigating him because they are tainted. Nobody is talking about that. Nobody is talking about that. All we are talking about is that if he committed a crime, he should go and face the music.
Are you saying the law shouldn't take its course?
That is not what I am saying.
Because he's a senator.
No,
is that what you're saying?
No, you need to understand me clearly, and I am trying my best to make myself very clear on this issue. The law is that he that comes to equity will come with clean hands. The police in Nigeria, as an investigator, they don't have clean hands in some of these matters. With all due respect to them.
Okay, what's your take?
You know, here's my take on it. Now, we know these things happen. Personally, I'm pleased it's happening to people in the public eye today. Because the police and law enforcement in Nigeria have not just started being shoddy in terms of investigation. And my grouse with this administration has always been how they execute the laws. The acts of the law should fall irrespective of whom it is falling on.
Yes.
But that only brings to the fore our problem as a nation that is bigger than Dino Melaye, is bigger than Senator.
I'm going to hold you on there, you continue, but we have a caller. Hello, good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Okay.
Hello.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I want to contribute on what you are saying this morning.
Go ahead.
Now, I did not believe IG what he's saying because I know that IG had a problem with the Senate president before, because he was invited to the Senate and he took a lawyer to that place and he cannot speak by himself. Now he's using that system to prosecute a Senate president. Nigeria should not believe that IG because they don't know what he's saying. Himself and the president are the same. They are working together trying to destroy the Senate president.
Okay, thank you. We're looking at Godfatherism. What's your take?
Yeah?
Well, we're discussing Godfatherism in Nigerian politics. The impact of Godfatherism. What's your take? Okay, maybe he will get back to us. But I'm looking at that. Tomorrow you can also call. That's what we started yesterday. We're going to wrap up that tomorrow, but he can also call. Yes.
So, like I said, the point I was making is that it's much bigger than it is. Is much bigger than the individual personalities involved today. Because, like I said, the law enforcement should, their duty, statutorily, is to execute the laws. not decide like has been suggested, get permission from the president to say, okay, do I prosecute this person? If the person has run foul of the law, it's a duty to prosecute.
Okay, looking at this event, we have loads of events where they did primaries. We saw some people were shot, and some people said that there are loads of people behind them, heavyweight, that and some people just go scot-free for doing such a thing. Looking at all this event, when are we going to go off this kind of system of politics?
Well, we will get off this system when we decide to get off it. And when, rounding off.
Yes,
and when do we decide to get off it? Unfortunately, I cannot close my eyes to certain facts. It was all over social media recently how the current IGP of police became IGP. He was CP of Kano State. He had about 21 or so senior police officers ahead of him who had to be retired to make him the IGP. And the implication is that...
I'm going to hold you on there again. There's another caller. Hello, good morning to you.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
I want to contribute to what you are saying. You know, number one, for us to get it right in this country, we must decentralize the unity police system. You know, if we can get state police, I think we will be better secured than what we are having now. You know, and you see, this a lot of killings, it will automatically stop because our indigenous police can never allow foreigners or anybody having a political interest to, you know, mastermind killing. Then another one, what my young guy at the middle was saying in this Godfatherism of a thing, you know, we go back to the Constitution, you know, and he talked about having an independent candidate. That independent candidate will go a long way if we can enact it, you know, in our laws. And we find out that when an independent candidate that has a good credential, he doesn't need any godfatherism, anybody to sponsor him. It is his character, his reputation speaks for him. Do you understand? So when we get there, Nigerians still they know the right thing. They try to do it. They travel to abroad. They enjoy everything there, their democracy, their everything, amenities, and they try to do it here. They try to put it on here. So that's what I would contribute to that.
Thank you so much. Yes, you were speaking.
Yes, I was saying that ordinarily, the sequence of events I have just described, the first impression you get is that there is a hidden hand somewhere guiding this the ascendancy of this young man. I am not saying that it is true. I am not saying that that is the case. But all I am saying is that when you see these kind of things happen, and there are no explanations, something goes on in my mind. Now, having said that, for us to be able to stop some of these things, we have to take a conscious decision, make a deliberate effort.
What are those efforts?
For instance, there is even this allegation against the present administration that the security architecture of Nigeria is in the hands of one particular section of the country. Now, given the diverse nature of this country, what is wrong with making the process of the selection of these people transparent and open, so that anybody who has an issue look at the system that brought this man up? It is not as if somebody sat down and made certain appointment alone. Even if he makes the appointment, it goes through certain scenarios. You will find out that a lot of these perceptions will die down. Now, coming back to the police, the truth of the matter is that the police is very integral and essential to this. I even dare say, even more than the armed forces. Yeah. They're very essential to the survival of this country as a nation. And if for any reason they are not able to get their acts right, we will keep having this kind of issues that we are doing. People have suggested that the solution could be states to have...
Policing.
Yes. Well, as far as I am concerned, if the restructuring is done properly, there will be decentralization of the police. It has its own pros and its cons. Yeah. Yes, one of the things it could do is that crimes like the one that we're talking about can be investigated independent of the media. In fact, if you ask me, as far as I'm concerned, the imbroglio involving the Senate President and the police, part of why it is this way is because it has been turned into a media event. And as a lawyer, first and foremost, I am turned off. I do recall that the National Judicial Council set up a committee to investigate why certain types of cases take so long and all of that. And in their report, the bulk of the indictment that they gave went to the investigation and the police. And that is what we see in the courts daily.
Okay, coming down to what we're discussing today, because it's very important. The last caller said something. He talked about individual or single candidacy.
Yeah.
But let's get this caller, then we'll talk more. Hello, good morning to you. Good morning.
What I make the point I want to make is that Nigeria is about to think as its own power. What they call the Inspector General of Police.
I don't know what's wrong with your phone.
Hello.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say now is that when the coalition of the party comes together to form a team, they had an agreement. And in that agreement, they were not agreeing to all of them. When the president is away, they gave to be the Senate president. And it's a question like that. President no.
We're discussing, although we came into that, but we're still looking at Godfatherism in Nigerian politics. Can you give us your thoughts on that quickly? Okay, I think the phone. Yes, you were saying something concerning. I asked you concerning what the last caller said before this one. Yes. He talked about getting the right person, independent candidacy. Yes.
Yes, I think my learned friend on the other side has already said it, that we lost an opportunity when the independent candidacy aspect of the not too young to run bill was struck down and all of that. Well, beyond that, I think, yes, independent candidacy as a political solution is one solution. But you see, even if you have independent candidacy and we are still wired the way we are wired, with our arrangements the way it is,
we must
even the independent candidate is not independent because there will be people somewhere telling him how to go about his business. And that is what
we must stop that. That's what we're going. Wrapping up.
Wrapping up.
Maybe you need to just itemize what we need to do briefly, maybe 3, to see how we can stop that.
We are talking about Godfatherism.
Yes.
And the topic of the discussion really makes me kind of reluctant to jump behind the wagon of state police, local police.
Yes.
Because it means we'll have the same problems, because some of these godfathers operate at federal level, state level, and local government level. So, like he has said, we need to work on that reorientation, the rewiring, first as individuals.
Where do we start from?
From self. Look in the mirror in the morning and
from
decide.
The home, or
yes.
from what point?
From the home, from the self, from that person in the mirror in the morning, and say, make a conscious decision to impact positively, irrespective of costs. And if I may just chip this in closing, you know, Nigeria as it is, people say, oh, they suffer a loss or a wrong, and they choose to leave it to God. Why? Because they say, if I go to court now, and I'm in court for 16 years, let me leave it to God. Why? We, as a people, we need to be prepared to pay the price for our freedom, pay the price for our democracy, and pay the price for our future.
Okay, in closing.
Yes, in supporting what he has just said, I think that there are different levels and different aspects to what we need to do. And I think that a good starting point will be on the individual. But at the same time, even the educational system, even our reward system in the society, all of these things are things that we need to look at. For instance, I listened to a program and they were talking about how the educational system is like the present day computer. It's garbage in, garbage out. If the people you are training are not given the right type of training, those who are training them are not even equipped to give them the training they need, what will you get? You will not get good people who will come out to either lead or to be led. Those are some of the things that I think.
So we should start from the individual?
Yes.
The role of the government aside individual.
What's the individual? Somebody said if all of us light a candle in our little corners, the effect of lighting that candle will be that everywhere will be lit up wherever there are people. So if we start as individuals, it will reflect in every other thing that we are doing.
I want to thank Adeyemi Birunke, legal practitioner. Thank you so much for coming on the segment.
It's a pleasure to
Thank you so much. And I want to thank Anacho Alozie, legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on the segment. We're going to invite you some days for other topics as well. Thank you for coming. Obvious at home, this is where we end this segment. Up next, we want to look at another segment, and we're looking at fibroid. Well, the doctor will say that this tumor is in the walls of the uterus, but we have a doctor here that will tell us more about it, and you must sit and watch so you'll learn. We'll be right back. Stay with us.